Bill Landry forged his first certificate to become a merchant marine during World War II, and he was on the first ship to bring POWs back from Germany. And Bill died in his 90s, and he was my oldest combat vet. And Bill still had nightmares and flashbacks about the emaciated bodies.
Welcome to the Combat Vet Transition Journey podcast. Pat Frager here. Every combat vet suffers from physical and emotional challenges. I find that transition is a lifelong journey. As they say, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Welcome to my little museum. I call it the Cactus Militaria Mini Museum. Come on in. It's to honor the veterans that served and won us our freedom.
Today we're privileged to be with Harris, and he'll also take us on a tour with Joe Sturdivant, who is today's guest.
Well, I'm excited to have you guys down at the museum. It's all about honoring veterans, and Pat, I sure appreciate your service in the Vietnam War, and looking forward to meeting Joe, going through the museum with him.
And I'd like you to make sure that you leave your comments, like and subscribe to this at the end because it's invaluable. Moreover, pass the word on to all of your other combat vets who are on their journey. Hey, brother. Welcome, Joe.
Hey, thanks, Pat. How are you?
Good. Outstanding. It's great to have you here today.
Well, I'm ecstatic to be here. Thank you.
Well, you are a veterans advocate. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? I don't want to get into any traumatic experiences, but be that as it may, tell us really who you are and what you do, bro.
Okay, so I am a former active duty Marine. And I say former because they took my weapon card went with me when I left the military. But once a Marine, always a Marine. So a little bit about myself. I served in the Marine Corps from 1984 to 2006. Had a wonderful experience in the Marine Corps through every facet of my promotions. Had a chance to meet some great people, learn about leadership, and I had a chance to deploy several times to combat.
Okay, that's active duty.
Active duty, yeah.
You've basically stayed in touch with Marines since then, haven't you?
Of course, the Marine Corps is my life.
You're always a Marine, that's for sure. How were you feeling at that point, physically and emotionally? I mean, you mentioned you did a couple of tours in combat. I assume that was in Iraq. Is that correct?
Yes, it was. Yes.
Okay, so you had some. Would it be fair to say that you had some TBI issues?
I had some things going on that was definitely different about myself, my character, my personality, my ability to remember things, my ability to even mood-wise. Is it normal to have suicidal thoughts? It's not normal.
It is if you're a combat vet.
Is it normal to feel like you're worthless?
So tell us, what did you do to ameliorate that? How did you make it better?
It took me many years to realize that I need to do something different than what I wasn't doing, which was I wasn't seeking out the resources and the things that were available. I actually connected with other veterans. Okay. I actually had the opportunity to connect with a Vietnam veteran, very similar to you, a guy named Jim Driscoll, platoon commander in Vietnam who lost 3 fellow veterans within 5 minutes of getting off the plane in Vietnam. Okay. And he wanted to give back to the returning combat veterans what he didn't have when he came home, which was resources. So he created this nonprofit, these retreats to help veterans out.
Was he an inspiration for you?
He was very much an inspiration to
now,
many of us.
These retreats, I assume, helped you, correct?
These retreats offered a place to discuss, to talk about, to feel normal amongst other veterans that have the same similarities. Okay. So that's how I found out about Vets for Vets through the VA. It was a resource that a social worker provided, saying, hey, it's a chance to get out and do something different, get out, experience, have some experience with other veterans that have the same like-mindedness or same scenarios. And so I went out and fell in love with the retreats and became a part of the organization. It empowered me to even take care of myself, whereas it gave me more courage and more strength to be able to be available for other people. I felt a need to take care of myself before I can extend assisting other folks. So it did definitely help me a lot.
Did this motivate you to become a part of the VA?
No, what motivated me to become a part of the VA was I'm a certified addiction therapist, and the VA gave me an opportunity to continue my profession as a drug and alcohol counselor.
Now, Joe, what addictions have you found to be common amongst combat vets since you've been working with the VA?
So when I was an addiction therapist working at the VA, I found a lot of them dealt with substance use disorder of alcohol as one of the primary substances of use to self-medicate. Some would use illicit drugs like methamphetamine, heroin, and those type of drugs like that would be problematic for a lot of our veterans coming back. They would experiment to try to figure out how to get rid of some of the things that they were tormenting them.
Tell me, what have you found to be the most effective way for combat vets to transition?
I can only speak from my experience and what I've acknowledged from myself and what I've seen from other veterans' experiences. That from my experiences is to be engaged, to be a part of something, identifying, doing like self-reflection, introspection of yourself, and seeing what's working for you. And if things are not working for you, especially your quality of life is being degraded because of some of your behaviors or some of the things that you're not doing that you used to do, you probably need to get involved or look at and see what needs to change. And I realized that there were things in my life that I wasn't doing. There was feelings that I was having that wasn't normal. There were things that I was doing that was not proper, and it was a challenge in my value system. So I wanted to be online with my value system as it was before in my quality of life. So I sought out the resources that were available to me. I even sought therapy. I took the chance and I took therapy, and therapy works if you work the therapy. I didn't go there to seek out does therapy work for everybody else. I went to see if therapy works for me, and I can tell you evidence-based treatment, different type of modalities. You just got to find the right therapy and find the right provider to administer therapy, because it was a challenge for me when I first went into the trying to get help. It was it was hard for me to try to find the right individual that really cared about me. So,
well, Joe, you have dealt with, to say the least, hundreds of vets, combat vets, during your time, from the time you were discharged until now. You're still actively working with vets. Tell us about the Veteran Treatment Court, and also your help in getting veterans into the Veterans Treatment Court, as well as the Veterans DUI Diversion Program. Could you share that with us?
So I volunteer. Actually, there was a gentleman named Pat Russell who's a veteran. They were looking, they're still looking for veterans to be a part of the Veterans Treatment Court. The Veterans Treatment Court is a program that was established, I believe, in 2010. And that program was established to help those veterans that are not considered violent, that may have infractions with the law. And so instead of arresting them or incarcerating them, they would evaluate them, the judge and the courts would evaluate them to see if they're appropriate for the Veterans Treatment Court. And so the overall arching goal, what I understand about the Veterans Treatment Court, is that the veteran receives the help through interventions, through medical treatment and services that are provided through the VA and other institutions to help that veteran to identify some of the discrepancies which may have caused them to be involved with the law.
And it's my understanding that a veteran who is in a treatment court is taken out of the judicial system. So you're no longer in a normal judicial system, we'll say in San Diego, and I think the veterans courts are throughout California, pretty much throughout California. And there's an agreement, from my understanding is, between the prosecutors, the public defenders, and the courts, the judges, or the people who are assigned to this. And it's important, or it's imperative, that the veterans stay within a treatment program at the VA. And once this is completed, then the charges are dismissed. Is that your understanding, Joe?
That sounds very accurately. The charges could be either dismissed or sort of mitigated to something, whereas if they had a felony, it can be downgraded to a misdemeanor. So it depends on the circumstances, and again, you're dealing with the legalities of that. I don't have too much knowledge on that, but the gist of what you're saying, Pat, is definitely, it sounds like that's what the program is all about.
And I'm happy to report that I know a veteran who got a DUI here in California. You know him also. And he recently moved to Arizona, and he completed his DUI program in Arizona. And he got his license restored as a result of being in the Veterans Diversion Program. I don't know if you're aware of that. I thought it would make you feel good because you were instrumental in getting this guy into their program.
I think those services are great. I'm glad that our legal system recognized that a lot of our veterans get into trouble after post leaving the military, especially if they served in combat. And so some of those challenges definitely may cause infractions of being in violation of the law. And I'm glad they do have programs available like that for veterans that may suffer those.
Okay, now you are quite familiar with the different benefits that VA and services that the VA provides, as well as other services provided by the Semper Fi Fund. What would your advice be to these combat vets who are in a state of limbo, who are suffering from the symptoms of TBI and PTSD, who are out there trying to figure out what to do with their lives? What would your advice be, since not only have you successfully transitioned, but you have shepherded so many other veterans through the programs? What's your advice, Joe?
So one thing, I don't think I ever shared this with you, but I never try to give advice because I'm not an advice-giving person. I learned a valuable lesson from a colleague of mine who gave some wrongful advice to someone. So I made a suggestion to myself that I would never try to give advice, but I will offer information and resources to individuals that want something different. So to answer your question, what I would encourage individuals that have challenges when they leave the military, those individuals that especially have served in combat, those that feel displaced, that feel lost and feel hopeless and helpless, take that risk. Reach out to individuals that care about you. You're someone that cares about someone, Pat, and here's how I know this. I remember I used to get texts from you all the time, like, who's this guy that's texting me all the time? Every time you used to text me, that's a form of communication. You're trying to establish a relationship. And that's because you want to be a part of something greater than yourself, which is to take care of our veterans. And for that, I am grateful for you as a fellow veteran, that you're actually trying to reach out for those. But there are those individuals that says, I don't want help from anybody. They got to follow their journey. And so sometimes it may take for them to realize when all else is not available, that someone still cares about them. And you have that, you don't take no respect that it says, hey, I'm gonna take care of this veteran because you know what? I'm gonna show them that I care. I may not show them with words, but I'm gonna show them because I'm available for them. So I would say use the resources available, take that risk, use the VA, use any resource that's available for you to help you, because at the end of the day, you're gonna be uncomfortable. But at the end of your life, you're going to have some sort of resiliency. You're going to have some sort of different approach. You're going to see the world differently. And I encourage them just to take that risk. You know, you took a risk to go to combat. Now you're back from combat. Take another risk and do something different than what you've been doing. Because if you continue to play the same loop, it can end up into a tragic situation. And I know the tragedy from some of my experiences that I've had fellow combat veterans that have taken their life.
We've all lost a lot of people to the suicide option. That's why I always close by saying, you are the captain of your fate. You are the master of your soul. Thank you, bro.
Thank you. And I want to give you something, Pat. I know probably many people's giving you a lot of things, but as a fellow combat veteran, as a Vietnam veteran, I know we just recently honored you all nationally. So this is a pen that I was able to get at an event I went to, and it says Vietnam Veterans. And I want to give this to you. It's a pen you can wear on your lapel in a suit. But I want to welcome you home, first of all, and I want to give this to you, Pat.
Thank you, my friend. And I'll tell you, it's interesting because when we did come back from Vietnam, we weren't welcomed very much. And I think it's a tribute to those who served in Iraq and later on in Afghanistan, that the government and the people in the country are starting to realize that post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury are a real thing. And the veterans have earned the right to get special privileges, to get the benefits that are out there for us.
I like your attitude, Pat. Because there was a gentleman, and I'm gonna give credit to this former active duty Marine. His name is Kelly. He was a gunnery sergeant. You know, this phrase he coined that he read somewhere in a piece. It's called post-traumatic stress syndrome, And so my goal as a fellow veteran is to have post-traumatic success in my life. People like Bob Parsons, GoDaddy, extraordinary donor. He's a philanthropist. He's given so much donations. And people like yourself, you give your time, your resources available for veterans. It's people like you that make it possible for veterans that are struggling. So thank you for your help.
Well, thank you, and let's hope other people get involved and share their journeys as they transition into a better life. Thanks for joining us. Our last episode we had Michael Wood. We went through his transition journey. This episode we focused on Joe Sturdivant and his journey. Our next episode will be with what I consider to be the new badasses of the Marine Corps, the EOD guys, Explosive Ordnance Disposal, and we'll hear from Brian Meyer. Brian Meyer was gunnery sergeant in the Marine Corps. He detonated well over 50 IEDs, improvised explosive devices, before he lost a leg, an arm, and several fingers to an IED. And he'll tell you, and his attitude and his charisma, I think, will be motivating for everyone, just as Joe Sturdivant was today. Well, I'd like to thank Joe for coming to joining us today. I'd like to thank everybody in the audience, and I'd like you to make sure that you like, subscribe, and join us in future podcasts, because I think this will become your favorite podcast. And remember, you are the captain of your fate. You are the master of your soul.
It was an amazing story because he went on to be the first vice president of Bank of America who did not have a high school education. Bill actually graduated, and he'll tell you, he didn't graduate, but he attended St. Mary's High School in New York. He knew more about financing than most people could ever imagine. He actually opened the first branch of World Trade Center for Bank of America in San Francisco. And Bill would jokingly say he started as a messenger boy when he walked into Bank of America after he had served not only in World War II, but in Korea. And he told him he wanted a job as a messenger boy, and he said he retired after 35 years as a glorified messenger boy or vice president.